Welcome to the Empowered Spirit Show. This is your host, Terry Ann Hyman. I'll explore the connection to the human spirit in a way that helps to navigate your life, including crisis. I am passionate about helping you to open up to your intuition and the metaphysical world of spirit to find your confidence in your own inner guidance. Take a pause, be inspired, learn ways to show up focused, centered, and more dynamic in your everyday life.
Welcome back to the Empowered Spirit Show. Thank you so much for tuning in and joining me today. This episode is being sponsored by Ritual and Shelter. Are you looking for a magical place to shop and hold space? Check out Ritual and Shelter online or in Homewood, Alabama. Browse through their bookshelves covering topics such as energy healing, crystal healing, Reiki, chakras, auras, the Akashic Records, shadow work, astrology, and earth-based healing. You can also find herbal teas and tinctures alongside their crystals and oils to help establish a mindful mindset and fluid ambience before meditation, ritual work, and reflection. Ritual and Shelter is dedicated to providing one-on-one, in-depth conversations with customers to help them find the most efficient healing methods and resources that match their unique interest and energy. They offer tarot sessions, Reiki, sound bowl, and crystal healing, and now they are offering witch consultations. Visit ritualshelter.com to book an appointment and bring peace back to the body, mind, and spirit. You can also find them on Instagram at Ritual Shelter Shop, as well as Pinterest at Ritual Plus Shelter. As this podcast goes to air, there is a lot of cosmic forces going on. There's a lot of contrasting energy as well as turmoil in the world. We are at a point in humanity calling us to wake up, to really understand more about our inner work, to take time to reflect, to take time to be aware and observe our energy. Having a spiritual practice can help you to do the inner work. It can help you to stay grounded and give you the tools and techniques to help you move through all of these challenging times. There is a lot of disruption in the world going on right now, and it can be easy to be caught up in those lower vibrations of fear and anxiety and go down that rabbit hole of, oh my gosh, doomsday. But what good is that really going to do? Which is what we're going to be talking about today, is how we can counter some of that darkness and recognize the place it holds for us right now, and also how important it is to do the inner work, to be able to shine our light and know that that too is very, very important. Having a spiritual practice teaches us these tools. Having a spiritual practice teaches you how to go within, how to do that self-reflection and be aware of the energy, not only that you put out into the world, but the energy that you take in. There are so many ways that you can work with your own energy field. I teach how to work with Reiki, how to work with emotional freedom technique, how to get into the Akashic realm, work with your past lives, work with those old imprints to change the behavior that you don't want to see keep showing up over and over and over again. And right now is a perfect time to get an energy clearing session. Let go of all that heaviness. We're about 2/3, I guess, away through winter. And winter does have a lot of that deep energy, that dark energy that depresses our energy field. But when we have an energy session, we can clear it off and we can feel lighter and then approach life with a different perspective. We so need it. I also offer spiritual mentoring, teaching you how to set up your practice, teaching you the tools and techniques to be more aware of your energy field, your aura, the empathic nature you carry, how to train your intuition, use Reiki, and get out of those limited beliefs that go around and make you struggle with the mind. So important. Want to know what to do next? Schedule a spiritual upgrade breakthrough call with me, and let's talk about what's blocking you and what you can do to begin to step forward for that inner work that is so needed right now. So in today's episode, we are going to enter into the world of quantum science. My guest is Paul Levy, and his latest book is The Quantum Revolution, Awakening to the dreamlike nature of reality. It's actually revised and expanded. So much information that we talk about. We talk about the quantum field, we talk about the inner work, we talk about reflection, recognition, we talk about the darkness in the world, we talk about the mind virus. He gives it a name, wetiko. So many things that he talks about. Amazing conversation. Before we begin, let's take a moment to pause and center and set an intention for where you are right now. So wherever you are, if you can, close your eyes. Taking a nice deep inhale, breathing up the body. And as you exhale, just call all your energy into you. Call it in. Inhale, expanding the breath up the body. And as you exhale, begin to breathe and slow down and allow yourself to pause and center. Inhale, expanding the breath up the body. And as you exhale, just call all your energy into you. Call it in. Begin to align the spiritual body right on top of the emotional, mental, physical layers, centering. Inhale, expanding the breath up the body. And as you exhale, drop right into the heart, right into the deepest part of your heart. Feel that connection with your spirit and the greater spirit. Know that you are loved, guided, protected. Feeling all this energy coming in around us as we take a moment to notice where we are on this great wheel of life. Where I am, we find ourselves in the season of winter and the direction of the north, where we go deep within. We do our visions and our dreaming. We call in our ancestral energies. And so we offer to the north and the east, the south and the west, above us, below us, right into the very center, right into your heart. Setting an intention for your path, your light. See and hear and feel and know this energy, this vibration for you, and let it radiate out all around you, setting that energy. Taking another deep inhale and exhale. Feel the heart opened. Feel the illumination of the third eye. And as you're ready, bringing your awareness back, coming back. So my guest today is Paul Levy. Paul Levy is a pioneer in the field of spiritual emergence and a Tibetan Buddhist practitioner for 40 years. He is the founder of the Awaken in the Dream community in Portland, Oregon, and the author of several books, including Undreaming Wetiko and Wetiko. He lives in Portland, Oregon. So let us welcome Paul to the show. Welcome, Paul.
Thank you so much for the invite. I'm really excited to be here with you.
I'm very excited to talk about quantum, for sure. The quantum revelation, awakening to the dreamlike nature of reality. Congratulations. Yeah, another book.
Thank you. Totally.
Yeah. Actually, it's a revision.
Yeah. The first edition came out in 2018, and I thought I was all good, that I had written my book on quantum physics. And then I kept on getting downloads. And so this revised and expanded edition came out of that.
Yeah, there is so much to it. I remember first learning about quantum physics through the movie What the Bleep. Remember the movie? Actually, it had William Einstein on the show. We talked about it. He was on the show.
Well, and was filmed in my neighborhood in Portland.
It was. You're absolutely right.
I was watching it in a theater, and in that theater was in the movie. So it was very dreamlike for me.
Yeah, it was amazing to be able to see that. I mean, as a spiritualist, like I kind of know this and take it for granted, but to be able to see it on film was very cool. And I have interviewed him. He was very cool. Him and his wife, Deirdre, both. Yes. So that began my fascination with understanding the quantum world and explaining a lot of the spiritual work that I do. So I think it's so important that we can begin to recognize it. And right early in the book, you start talking about the quantum mechanics.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I talk about that. Quantum mechanics, quantum physics, to say it was a radical discovery, that's a euphemism. It was discovered or invented, whatever you call it, 100 years or so ago. And it basically pulled the rug out from physicists, from the floor below. There was no place to stand because, in essence, it proved that the universe that pre-quantum physicists, classical physicists were studying, which they conceived of as being objective and separate from themselves, and they were just passively trying to explore, that universe didn't exist. that's an idea of an objective world only existed as an idea in our mind with no correlate in reality. And to explain that, they found that the act of observing the universe actually influenced the universe that they were observing, which that's the rabbit hole I go down in the book, because that's basically pointing out that the act of observation is creative. We think we've been put under the spell that perception is passive, but quantum physics is saying no, the act of observation actually creates the very universe, or influences the very universe that we're observing, in such a way that the observer and the observed are actually co-joined. They're not, in one quantum system, and not even like they're two separate things interacting. No, in a quantum world, and this universe has been proven to be quantum through and through on every scale, big and small. There's no separate parts. It's all one seamlessly interconnected whole. And just the final piece on that is that it's the realization that the act of observation is creative, that we ourselves have this unimaginably vast creative agency that we're unaware of. And because we're unaware of it, our unconscious creative energies get turned against us in a way that is destructive, both individually and collectively, as is evidenced by what's playing out in the world. And so quantum physics is really unlocking our creative spirit if we recognize that it's a revelation. Quantum physics is a living revelation, the likes of which we've never encountered in this world of ours.
And I think it's so important what you just said, especially about the noticing, the perceiving. We are that reflection of the universe. The universe is that reflection of us. And then when we can understand that and notice these things, like you say, then we can change so many things around us. We can be aware of what's coming in, what's going out, is another way to explain that.
Yeah, it's like sort of dispelling the identity of feeling we're being victimized by the universe. And it's very empowering to, it's via our act of interpreting, like whatever's happening is happening at whatever given moment, but we then interpret the waking inkblot in the way we do, so that we create our experience of ourselves and of the world. There's no one else doing that. We, by the way we place meaning on the waking inkblot, we are creating our experience. And that's what quantum physics is actually showing us. And, by doing that, it's actually offering us the medicine for the collective madness that's going on and the evil that's playing out all over the world. And, I can go into that. I mean, I do go into that in my book.
Well, you do. You talk about, is it called wetiko? Wetiko mind? You talk about that in your other books?
Yeah. And I pronounce it wetiko, you could say
Wetiko.
wetiko.
Thank you.
There's no one right way.
Okay. Yeah.
And the idea being that wetiko, it's a mind virus, and I've written 3 books that it's been a huge discovery. We have the diagnosis for what, has infected our species, and it's a mind virus. And all that means, because it can sound woo-woo or new agey, all that it means is that the origin of our collective madness and the solution is to be found within the psyche. And that's a no-brainer. Where else in the world could the root of our collective madness be found? And so the thing about this mind virus, we literally entrance ourselves and put ourselves under a spell, particularly in thinking that this world exists in a way that it doesn't. When we're under the sway of the mind virus, we think this world exists objectively, separate from us. And then we react to it as if it's other than us, and we become conditioned by its display. And without realizing that we're looking in a mirror and that it's not something objective or real out there, but we're seeing our own reflection. But the thing is, being like a dream, because quantum physics has empirically proven that we're having a collectively shared dream. And, one way to understand that, in a dream, if you're holding a viewpoint such as the dream universe you're in is objective, being a dream, which is nothing other than a reflection, the dream will give you all the evidence confirming your point of view that the universe is objective. And now you have confirmation, now you have evidence, now you have proof. So you get even more fixed in your viewpoint that the universe is objective. ad infinitum. It's a feedback loop that self-reinforces, whose origin is within your own mind. And what I've just described, that is the mind virus. That is, we've hypnotized ourselves. That's wetiko. That's the malady. And quantum physics, by showing that there's empirically proving that there's no such thing as an objective world, that's offering us the medicine for the mind virus.
Yeah. Because that mind virus is the stress, the overwhelm, the anxiety of the world that we're all living in right now, all that disruption of the energy field right now. So we can have a different perspective. It's a choice, is what you're saying.
Yeah, no, totally. And that's exactly right, that at each and every moment, we have a choice of how we're interpreting what's happening. And so many people have just gotten into the habitual pattern of interpreting what's happening in a negative way that feeds into their despair and pessimism. And that becomes a self-confirming feedback loop, like I was just describing. Instead of, quantum physics is showing us, oh, our nature is creative. And when you consciously tap in and embody and express yourself creatively, then all of a sudden, instead of your energy being blocked or being channeled in a destructive way, whether it's individually or collectively, when you express yourself creatively, you're actually offering yourself to be a vessel for spirit to incarnate, and not just spirit, but our spirit, who we are. And who are we? But our nature is love, our nature is compassion. And that dissolves the whole fear-based reality that the mind virus flourishes in.
Yeah. So every day we wake up, we have a choice. I can either buy into that or I can open up to that creative aspects of who I am in spirit and God and creation and start fresh every day. Yeah.
Yeah, and not only every day, but every moment. I mean, that's the
Every
trick.
moment. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
because quantum physics is saying that even though this universe seems to be continuous from one moment to the next, that quantum physics has shown that no, this universe is flashing in and out of the void. It's pulsing in and out of the void every nanosecond, refreshing itself anew in such a way that it simulates the previous moment, but yet with a slight difference, but we don't have the perceptual apparatus to see that. So for us, it seems like the same universe, but quantum physics is showing no, each and every moment, this whole universe, including ourselves, is born anew. And that's very, very empowering, um, for us to be like as creative agents in this world.
I agree. And right now, with everything going on, I know it's easy. And I know I have to kind of work at it sometimes too. It's like we wake up, we go to our phone, we look at what happened yesterday, and then we remind ourselves, oh, yeah. And then we're back in that stress. But yet, we don't have to do that. That's creating the angst and anxiety. But if we can wake up and recognize each day and each moment, as you've already said, wait, let me start here. Let me open up. And I love the idea of creativity. Someone asked me last week, like, how are you? How's your week been? I'm like, I've just been creative. Like, I don't even know where it's going. I've just been in this creative mode, which is kind of what you're suggesting that we can be in.
Well, our nature, like one very simple way of talking about the mind virus is like that the greatest protection for us is to be in touch with our true nature. But that's such a cliche. Like, what does that even mean? What is our true nature? And I point out our true nature, by its very nature, is creative. So when you have realization of your nature, you embody and express yourself creatively. And the more you do that, to deepen your realization of your nature in a positive feedback loop that creates light upon light in a world of darkness. And and some people are like, oh, I'm not creative. Well, they're so creative that they're using their creativity to create the experience of not being creative. And that's tragic. But that's an expression of what a creative genius they are. That they can even create an experience of not being creative. The point is to consciously tap into our creative expression. And I point out that that ultimately is the real medicine for the wetiko mind virus. And that's what quantum physics is offering us.
Yeah, I so agree with that. So I work a lot in the energy field, the subtle body. I teach a lot about that. It's the same idea that we have this energy field and that what comes in and what goes out is kind of what we don't see. That doesn't mean it's not there. Right. And so that's the same idea. We don't see all that stress and all there, but boy, can we get attached to it. So when we can open up and recognize I can work with my energy, I can be clear. And I lots of times talk about the creative mind as like the intuitive mind as well. getting out of the intellect. I think that helps me to understand this as well.
Well, yeah, and I think about, intuition, as really having to do with being connected with the unconscious, you know, and so all of a sudden, instead of you're getting these unconscious, impulses or insights or visions and just marginalizing them and ignoring them, no, when we cultivate our intuition, we pay attention to that. That's how I write my books. I feel like I'm just a midwife. And then I have such an intimate relationship with my unconscious that I've learned to differentiate when I'm just in my monkey mind and I just need to ignore the neurotic, endlessly circling thought forms compared to when I'm getting a download and when all of a sudden my higher self is speaking to me and it's a different energy signature. And when that happens, I've learned to pay attention. It's like having a dream, and I want to not forget the dream. So that's when all of a sudden, yeah, I'm getting these dictates from the unconscious, and it's literally showing me what I'm going to write about that day, how I'm going to write about it. And I'm just the instrument. I'm just I'm the employee almost, and like the boss is talking, and I'm just in service at that point.
Yeah, I think I would call that channeling. I know Reiki taught me that, like, because Reiki, we become this channel of energy, and that helps us to open up and understand more. And then that also gets into manifesting, right? Like you're channeling what you're writing. That's a manifestation. You're putting that out there, and that
Yeah,
can
yeah,
help us
yeah. And
understand
what
that
I'm
better.
pointing out in my work consistently is that to the extent we're unconscious of stuff and we're not doing our inner work to bring it to the light, then we're fated to unconsciously, in a compulsive way, to dream up and act out the very unconscious contents that we're avoiding. And so, that's where I'm pointing out that, yeah, we are actually, in our unconscious, we're having a collective dream. And to the extent that I'm unconscious, I'm dreaming up my unconscious because the way we become conscious of it, we project it outside because we're identical with it. We can't see it. So we first project it outside, we see it out there, and we typically react to it like it's some other. But when you're doing inner work, you can recognize that the unconscious content you're seeing out there is reflecting your own unconscious content. And that's the doorway into really integrating stuff.
The inner work.
Yeah, inner work, meaning self-reflecting, reflecting on yourself, reflecting on who you are. It's a bending backwards, and instead of just being entranced by your perceptions, thinking they exist out there, inner work is, whether it's a moment of pain or conflict or whatever's coming up in you, to turn your attention on it. Like a great example would be if somebody triggers you out there, the typical person puts their attention and energy and awareness out there on the other person. Oh, if only they would not do that, I wouldn't be triggered, right? But doing inner work is like, well, wait a second. If I'm being triggered by that person, what about if instead of putting my attention out there outside of myself, what about if I turn my attention in that moment on what in me is being triggered? Then all of a sudden, that's an incredible opportunity to shed light on some unconscious content, that being an example of inner work.
Yeah, I agree. Looking within ourselves, having that practice to be able to go within and stop blaming it. And that's part of what we see right now. It's like all that stuff out there, everybody blaming this one did this and this one did this. I mean, that's what creates a lot of that disruption in our own
Well,
energy
that's the way
field.
wetiko, the mind virus, works. It actually inspires us to put our attention outside of ourselves and think that's where the solution and or the problem is to be found. And as long as we invest our attention in that way, we're goners because the real Jung, the great psychiatrist Jung calls it the secret place is the inner, is the psyche. That's the real, that's where the jewel of alchemy is to be found within us. So if we keep on distracting ourselves and putting our attention out there, we're missing the mark.
The jewel of the alchemy, I so agree. That's where the change occurs, right? We can't change anybody, but we can do our own work. And then things can shift and change because we're doing that inner work that
Yeah,
gets us
yeah.
into the
And that's
quantum.
what Jung, one of his main things, because I've been studying his work so intensely for 40 plus years, he's talking about, that um, authentic change in the world always happens in the individual, you know, And any one of us actually self-reflecting, whether you call it seeing our shadow or seeing wetiko or seeing the dreamlike nature or connecting with the quantum, however you would articulate it, any one of us having that realization, that expansion of consciousness actually instantaneously informs and affects the entire collective unconscious in a way that helps all of us. So, it's important because it's so easy in these days, in this, modern time we live in, to feel so helpless, with all the darkness and evil and insanity. And on one level, yeah, we're only one of 8 billion people, but all the wisdom traditions are saying each one of us has we are interfacing with the creative source of the universe, but we don't know it. So what I'm talking about is bringing awareness to that and having that be this living experience. And then we discover that each one of us have this incredible creative agency and power. And that is real medicine for the collective.
It is real medicine for the collective, because look where we are right now. And it is easy to go down that rabbit hole. And it is easy to go down that I'm the victim and look at what's happening to me. Look at what's happening to all of us. And yeah, there is a lot going on in the world. How is this relevant to what you're saying now, taking this idea of quantum, helping us to change that perspective of what's going on in the world? How does this become even more relevant?
Yeah. Well, quantum physics is not just some sort of esoteric abstract theory that's really complicated. Like Albert Einstein himself, who's one of the founding fathers, who, by the way, could never fully embrace quantum physics because he was attached to that there was an objective reality outside of us.
Mm.
And quantum physics has dispelled that notion. He actually, this is a quote, he says, quantum physics is so uncommonly important, it should be everyone's concern. And I fully agree. The more that I've gone down the quantum physics, the rabbit hole, it's just blown my mind how our experience of ourselves and of the world is quantum in nature. And one very simple way of understanding quantum physics is that they would go down in scale because they're trying to find the building blocks, the microstructure of this physical world. And as they got smaller and smaller in scale, they didn't find anything that had anything to do with matter. They found mind, they found consciousness. That's the dreamlike nature. Okay. And then think about in quantum physics, there's the famous two-slit experiment where they discovered that light would manifest either as a wave or a particle, which are completely mutually exclusive and total opposites, depending on how it's observed. That consciousness somehow affected. See, that all of quantum physics is holographically enfolded within the two-slit experiment. But the point is that at each and every moment, like, for example, wetiko, the mind virus, it's the source of the greatest evil that we play out within ourselves, in our minds, in relationship with others, and collectively as a species. And yet, wetiko, the mind virus, it's a quantum phenomena in that it's a superposition of states, in that it's the highest, the most darkest, deepest evil. And it's an incredible blessing because wetiko is a revelation that's actually helping us to wake up. But both potentials are right there with the mind virus. And how is it going to manifest? It depends on us, on if we recognize what it's revealing to us. So the amazing thing I'm saying is that wetiko, the source of the greatest evil, is an actual living revelation, as is quantum physics. But they're incomplete revelations because they need us to recognize that they're revelations, and then we will receive the benefit. But if we don't recognize that quantum physics or wetiko is a revelation, for example, if we don't recognize wetiko is a revelation, that it's helping us to tap into our divine inheritance as creative beings, it will kill us, And the choice is up to us, like you keep on saying. We are the ones who are at choice.
Yeah. So to make that relevant, and then we'll get to how you have your book all laid out and all, but to make it, I guess, maybe in a simple form, it's like right now with what we're going through, there is a lot of so-called darkness and upheaval and all this anxiety and all this fear. So we can either buy into it that way or recognize, wait a minute, I see this, but I don't have to buy into it. I see this darkness. It can help me realize the importance of me going within, reflecting my light, and my light matters.
Right. And one way, like another way of saying the exact same thing is like think about in alchemy, they talk about the hermetic vessel, where the prima materia, which is the raw chaos, the rejected stuff, the shit, That's the most important thing, because if you don't have the prima materia, you can't make the gold, which is the awakened mind. But there has to be enough pressure in the alchemical vessel, or that prima materia will not transform into the gold, into the lapis, into the philosopher's stone. And so one way to think about what's happening is that in the alchemical vessel of humanity, in our psyches, there's incredible pressure that, can freak us out. We can blow our lids, we can, and then we're back at square one because the whole vessel then cracks. Or if we're able to hold that creative tension of the opposite and hold that pressure and not identify and buy into the fear, but just hold it with consciousness. This is at the core of Jung's work, and he was pointing out that Christ is a symbol. When you see Christ symbolically on the cross, this is exactly what he's representing, consciously holding the tension of the opposites, and then out of that came the resurrected body. That's very symbolic of what is potentially happening for all of us. And so if we hold that creative tension without splitting and dissociating or identifying with one of the opposites and projecting out the other, out of that comes grace. Out of that comes, Jung calls it the transcendent function. And, so that's what's available for all of us to turn the incredible pressure that we're all feeling just being in this world right now, a world gone mad, and hold and carry that pressure in a way where it awakens and cultivates our higher self and our creativity.
Yeah. I so agree. I mean, it's like, okay, don't get caught in it. Be aware of it right now, but also aware of your own light. Again, coming back to that. But we do feel this tension. We do feel this when we're aware. The tendency sometimes to be is to go down the rabbit holes and go out and blame everybody, blame everybody, blame everybody. So we're pushing it out. But it is a part, like you're saying, embrace it. That's the inner work, is to embrace it.
It's interesting. It's to embrace, like, at the same time, both our shadow elements. We need to own our shadow, and we need to embrace our light, you know,
Yes.
and we need to protect that light and cultivate that light. And the light, interestingly, it never burns brighter, but in times of extreme darkness.
Mm.
So the other part of that is that we also, if we're really wanting to protect the light, we have to know what threatens it, you know? And
Mm.
that's where I'm pointing out that wetiko, which is the source of evil, you see, so many, well-intentioned New Age spiritual people are like, oh, no, 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 I don't want to even put my attention on evil. Well, great. Then you're feeding it. Then you're strengthening evil because it feeds off of your own turning a blind eye. Wetiko, the mind virus, is a form of of blindness. And so if we don't look at the evil, yeah, if we get too fascinated by it, we're feeding it. If we don't look at it and turn a blind eye, we're feeding it. Okay, but then there's another option, and that is to see how Wetiko, which is the source of all the evil, how it operates through our unconscious blind spots, through our reactions, through our projections, and to see how it's an inner disease of the soul that actually expresses itself via the medium of the outside world. And then when you see it as a sovereign being, you realize, oh, I'm at choice. Now I see you, Wetiko. Now I see how you're threatening my light. Now what I'm going to do is invest my attention in creating the world I want to live in and protecting my light. Then that's kryptonite to Wetiko. Then you've taken away all of its power by doing that.
Kryptonite. I love that. Yeah, I agree. We can't pretend it doesn't exist, but we don't want to also keep feeding it either. So
Right.
having both sides and being in that middle part where you can be that light and bring that light forward.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We need
No,
it.
totally. And I mean, I think of in Buddhism, because I do Tibetan Buddhist practice, one of the greatest of the enlightened teachers, Shantideva, who wrote the classic book, The Way of the Bodhisattva. And people tend to think, oh, it's all about love and light, and yeah, it is. It's about, like what a bodhisattva is an awakening being. And we all are bodhisattvas in training. But what is the core, the message of the book is he actually says there's something that's numbing my mind. There's something that's creating black sorcery on me that's obscuring my light. What is that? You see, so here's the person who many spiritual people think, oh, he's just all about love and light. And what is his main message is we have to like become conscious of this thing that's obscuring our light. If we don't do that, then we're doomed.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Yeah. And so right now, with everything going on, it's important that we see this. And a lot of, I think, okay, my opinion, but a lot of why this is happening is so we can break it up. It's kind of like when we have that tension, 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 and then it comes back around, right? So we're moving through that in order to get to the changes we want to see. In some
Yeah,
ways, it
but
makes no sense, but in other ways, yeah.
no, but that's where what you're saying is true, but it depends on if we recognize what is being revealed to us, you know. And here, quantum physics, it's revealing to us that we're having a collectively shared dream, that we have this intrinsic creative power that's been unimaginable to us. And here, wetiko is helping us to recognize our divine inheritance, that we are these incredibly powerful beings beyond measure. But, if we don't take in the revelation, that both quantum physics and wetiko are revealing to us, then we're just going to be fated, like having a recurring dream of continually just creating more and more and more of a nightmare. Because I've named the wetiko mind virus the nightmare mind virus because it literally creates nightmares. But like when you have a nightmare and it recurs and recurs in more and more amplified form, it will do that until you get the message. And then when you get the message, no more nightmare. It doesn't have to recur. Same thing. There's a message. This universe is a living oracle. It's speaking symbolically, which is the language of dreams. And unless we get the message, we are in times of darkness. It's a known thing. That's when revelations happen, right? And it's an archetypal idea. And so this is a living revelation. What's happening in the world is a revelation of the divine, but instead of coming from a beam of heaven, a beam of light from the heavens, it's coming through the darkness. It's coming from the underworld. We as a species are going through a shamanic descent into the darkness of the unconscious. That's what's happening. And like a shaman, it's very dangerous. We can get caught there. But if you actually go through that experience and recognize, oh yeah, the darkness is part of me, and connect with our nature and access our creativity, then the myth of the shaman, and the shaman is the wounded healer, the shaman is the storyteller, the shaman is the creative artist, then the shaman comes back into this world of ours bearing gifts of creativity. And each one of us is being called to be that shaman.
Yeah, let that settle in. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, totally.
Yeah. And just everything of why this is even important right now that we're even talking about this and how it can help us get through these times that we're in. Yeah.
Yeah, because the big danger, I mean, I interface with so many people during the week, and people, particularly, since January 20th, are freaking out and crying and screaming and in fear and all that stuff. And that can be really dangerous because if you get caught in that, then you can't be of help for anybody else. And what I'm trying to say is that, yeah, there's a way of holding and carrying what's happening in the world right now where it actually catalyzes your own creative nature. And then that's actually creating medicine for you and medicine for others. And that's what all of us can do for ourselves, for each other, and for the world.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. And not make a projection of what's going to happen. We don't know what's going to happen, right? We can approach it from every moment that we get to
Well,
create.
quantum physics has one of the things that it discovered before quantum physics came on the scene. Classical Newtonian physics thought if they had enough information, they could predict the future. And then quantum physics came along and said, no, we can never predict the future. The future is probabilistic. And they actually say the best way to predict the future is to create it. Okay. And that once again is pointing at we are these incredibly powerful, empowered, creative beings, but we don't know it, you know? And that's what I'm trying to bring forth, to the extent that each one of us, even one person, adds consciousness to their nature, it's like the quantum, think about it like almost like a magic wand, a talisman that's fallen from heaven. And it's changed the world. We've created all these new technologies and all that, but the founding fathers are saying that's the low-hanging fruit, that the real benefit of quantum physics will be within our minds. It's going to change the way we think. It's going to expand our consciousness. It's going to shed light on who we are. And that's, so we're at the very, very beginning stages because quantum physics there's no debate that it's the greatest discovery ever in all of history in the realm of science. Nobody debates that. The question is, what does it mean? And I'm not a physicist, but yet, just as a curious person, the more I study quantum physics, the more I realize it's literally showing us that we're having a collectively shared dream. And that's unbelievably empowering, because then we have dreamed up wetiko, for example. That's why my most recent book on wetiko is Undreaming Wetiko. We've dreamed up this madness. We can undream it, but we first have to realize that we've dreamed it up, that it's not separate, objective, separate from our own consciousness.
You just really explained free will too. Like I agree. I read tarot, I read energies. It's like I'm not a predictive reader. And that's part of it. Right? Being very present and understanding the energy around it. But I think that's part of what you're saying too. Like there is no prediction here. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, quantum physics says something about time, which is really interesting. It points out that the past and the future are kind of holographically enfolded within the present. It's as if the present is the place where the past and the future handshake. And
Hmm.
quantum physics says something so interesting. It says the past hasn't really fully happened until it's observed in this present moment. And so the idea being that the way we envision the past in this moment actually seems to reach back in time and have an influence on what actually has already happened. And that's very much like you hear in shamanism. A shaman can go back in the past and change the past to influence the present. So in quantum physics, there is no variable for time in the equations. There's only one moment of time, and it's the now moment. It's the moment of observation. And that's the moment of our creative power, is the now moment. And so quantum physics is an atemporal, a timeless theory, you know, and yeah, it so just puts everything we've been imagining, to the extent that we've been conditioned in thinking we exist in a way that we do not, as a separate self. Quantum physics absolutely obliterates that sense that we exist as a separate self. And if I could just explain real quickly why that is, when you recognize there's nothing objective out there, which is what quantum physics has proven beyond the slightest shadow of a doubt, what happened to the subject? Well, if I'm a subject, I need an object to be in relationship to be a subject. But if there's no object, who am I? You see, so quantum physics has unwittingly promoted itself to become a spiritual path. It's actually shedding light on that, wait a second, I don't exist separate from you or anybody else. We're all interconnected. We're all interdependent. We're all part of the field and contained within the greater quantum field. And the energetic expression of that realization is compassion, you know?
Yeah. My meditation this morning was like, I am the nothingness through which all things flow. I am not separate. I am that oneness. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Something Reiki taught me very early on was the whole idea of time and what you're talking about, how we can, doesn't have forward or back, right? But we can go into things about our own path, our own life. And I work in the Akashic Records and I work in past life, but that's how we work with it. That explains why it's so important that we can work it, that we can bring it forward. And I've never really heard that about the past and the present being right there in the.
Yeah, yeah. So quantum physics says not only does the past cause the present moment to manifest the way it does, but so does the future. The future is extending its influence backwards in time, almost like we're being attracted into a potential future. And these hardcore scientists, they're not like, magical thinkers. They're actually genuinely asking the question, why can't we remember the future like we remember the past? Why does time only go in one direction where space goes omnidirectionally? So it just goes to show how open their mind has become, and it's very much like snapping out of the programming of the conditioning that our species has just unthinkingly been passing down through the generations.
This is snapping out of for sure. Yeah, and to me it just is makes me feel more empowered to wake up every day. I know I was reading your book over the weekend and I was thinking about my week and just waking up going like, this is the opportunity to create anything you want. Just taking this into context, like being that creative, I can create anything I want. And I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, but who's the I? Because I would disagree when you could create anything I want. Well, who are you talking about? Who's that I? Because are you talking about, oh, I want a yellow Cadillac, so I'm going to create a yellow Cadillac? Well, you might, Well, what's the good of that? What I'm pointing out is that when we get in alignment with the true I, with our nature as not being a separate self, but that we're interconnected with the whole universe, and the universe is wanting to dream itself through us and to incarnate through us. This is the process of individuation. Jung says individuation is incarnation. It's the incarnation of the self through the human ego, and we become the vessel for that. Then when we get into alignment with that, then yeah, we can dream what I want, but who is the I? It's the deeper self.
Yeah, and I guess I wasn't really saying I wanted to create a yellow Cadillac, but it was more about just being, I can create the happiness within my life. I can wake up to the joy every day and be in
Right.
that present moment.
Right.
More of that than having to wake.
That's your internal experience instead of right. Because where I like react is I know a lot of new age people who are like, oh, they're conflating the I, the third dimensional reference point in space and time, the ego, with their true self. And then they're like, oh, I can create this and they're actually confused. Where I appreciate your clarification that no, you were talking more about, yeah, you're creating your internal state. Exactly. You're the creator of your experience.
Going, yeah, because it can be easy to wake up, listen to the news, and wake up and stress and struggle every morning. But instead, it's like, wait, let me tap into that light part of me, and that's kind of where it was. There, I can wake up every day and be present, and start again, and be in this present moment. And help. I think I can help the world by shining my light. I mean, that's what I teach, right?
Yeah.
And so I
Well,
think
by
that's
by
part of
by
it.
you embodying that, you're helping the world, even if you don't talk to anybody. Just you like modeling and embodying and incarnating that light, you're helping the world non-locally.
Yeah, which was going to be one of my questions, like how can we take this and help the
I
world?
could give a real succinct answer to how we can help the world. So quantum physics, they were wanting to see what are the building blocks of this world, and they realized, oh, there's nothing having anything to do with physical matter, but with consciousness. And they called the building blocks elementary particles. And the way they described these elementary particles was that they exist in every and any possible state they ever could, each and every moment up until we observe them. And at the moment of observation, one of those possibilities actualizes into actual form, and all the others vaporize into parallel worlds. And then the very next moment, same situation. And the point is this, is that even if one of those quantum possibilities is highly, ridiculously improbable, it could happen this very next moment. And what that means is that even that our species could actually awaken sufficiently, maybe even one person awakening might be the catalyst, or maybe, the 100th monkey phenomenon, when there are enough people in the field, just like if you're baking bread, if there's enough yeast in the dough, the bread rises. So it doesn't have to be everybody, it just has to be the critical mass. This is what in the Bible they talk about, the 144,000. That's the symbolic number, and whatever percentage of humanity is awakening, when it reaches that 100th monkey phenomena, then all of a sudden we have a collective awakening and we're able to avert the myriad catastrophes that are converging on us, that we are conjuring up. Quantum physics is saying that's completely within the realm of the possible. And if you're caught in pessimism and despair, and as soon as you see this world through those lenses of pessimism and despair, being like a dream, it's going to give you all the evidence confirming that. And then you're caught, and then you're part of the problem. Then you're not part of the solution. So what I'm saying is, it's so inspiring when you realize what quantum physics is offering us. It's showing us what's possible, that we can actually, awaken sufficiently to create a new world. And that's not new age woo-woo magical thinking. That's what this is all about. Because when you realize that, you discover something. You discover we can connect with each other in a way where we dream ourselves awake. And then that's to consciously step into participating in our own evolution. That's what this is all about. That's what the revelatory aspect of quantum physics and of wetiko are showing us. And if we don't realize that, then we're fated to just continue on the path of destroying ourselves.
Yeah. And to me, it's the work I do and the way I like to see it. That is what's making me okay. I can wake up in the morning and I can start fresh and I can feel this joy and I can be at one. And yeah, it's maybe not an easy concept for some people, but I think that we recognize we can be a part of that. I know for me, it helps me. And that was what I was referring to,
Yeah, and
waking
one
up
one thing
feeling.
about the joy thing in Buddhism, one of the pillars of enlightenment is joy. So people are
Yeah.
like, how dare you feel joy in these days? No, no, no. It's a really radical form of activism is to connect with our joy. That's part of our nature.
Yeah, I've been reading the Book of Joy. I'm about to lead a book club with that, the Book of Joy. It's just such a beautiful book. It's such a beautiful teaching, right? And I think that we can still create joy. But I think, as you've said here, you've said so much. Oh my goodness, you've said so much, and I so appreciate your work, Paul. It's like recognizing we need to have the darkness and we need to have that, but don't get caught in it. But let's recognize it, let's awaken from it, and then recognize we can be a part of that collective. And having the critical mass, we hear that word a lot now, those terms, critical mass right now, be a part of the critical mass. But shine your light, light a candle, do something within yourself to shine light, to know that, yes, this does make a difference and it will make a difference. And opening up to this whole idea, I think, is very, very important. And in your book, you go into it, you give us the physics of dreaming. I do like that you have a little summary of key points. That was very helpful too. And then the second part is the quantum metaphysics of right, and it gives you the summary as well. And the whole idea of the lucid dreaming, like I'm a dreamer, you a dreamer, like you asked that question. And I think that's really important. I'm a Toltec student, so we do a lot of dreaming time. And even in the Toltec wisdom, especially right now, we talk about the Black Light Mother and how so much of that is so needed now to break up. Same idea, right? We do need both. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And like in essence, what I'm really trying to say is just like in a night dream where you can recognize the nature of your circumstance, that is that you're dreaming and have a lucid dream. We can have that same experience in the waking dream, you know,
Hmm.
and that's this whole work. My whole work came out of an experience I had over 40 years ago where that began happening to me, where I began to recognize, oh my God, we're having a collectively shared dream. And then stuff began happening in my life that was completely physically impossible. And it made no sense to my, programmed conditioned self. And it's taken me over 40 years to realize, no, I was having the beginning stages of a revelation. And that's the whole source, the whole seed of my work is to be found in those early experiences.
Yeah. It is a path to go into. And again, I agree with you. Once I started learning and studying, it's like this is showing me what I know and this is explaining. It is fascinating. It is very fascinating to open up to and more expanding that consciousness. And we can do that. We can do that. We don't have to look at this fixed objective world. And I think right now we need to hear that message. Very important. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
totally.
Yeah. Yeah. So where can I direct people to find you? Are you teaching? I know you have several other books besides this one.
Yeah, yeah, no, I am. I have all these groups all throughout the week, and I'm in private practice, and I've just been invited by the Shift Network to teach. They thought I was the perfect person to teach how to navigate times of darkness, and so I'll
Nice.
do that. And then after that course, maybe in the fall, I'm going to start my own classes. But if people want to awaken in the dream, go to awakeninthedream.com. And it's tons of free articles and interviews like this. It's not monetized at all. I just because I want to get this information out because it's medicine. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that's where people should go.
Medicine of the future for sure. And give a shout out to Inner Traditions for publishing the work for you as well, and for letting me know about it. Yeah.
Totally.
So we have said so much. This is one of the things you're going to have to take your time and listen to, just like the book, to take your time and read through. But if you could just give us a last uplifting thought about how empowering this work is right now for where we are.
Yeah. Well, okay. Quantum physics is literally showing us our nature and who we are, and that we have this incredible unconscious, unfortunately, agency and power that quantum physics is actually helping us to add consciousness to and to become conscious and to connect with. And, when you take in the revelation that is quantum physics, it will make your life so much better and change your whole life. But that's nothing compared to what it will do when enough of us as individuals who've taken in the quantum gnosis and connect with each other and put our realization together and realize, oh my God, we can activate the collective genius by hanging out together. This is the real Sangha, the spiritual community of the Buddha. This is the mystical body of Christ. This is totally available to us. there's a really great French proverb, like, and it goes, "This is no time for pessimism. I'll save that for better times." You know, and so the idea being, yeah, there is no point in getting pessimistic or depressed or despairing. No, this can activate us in a way to become quantum activists and to really catalyze our own spirit, our own light, our own love, our own compassion, our own creativity, and to connect with other people who are also doing that. And when that happens, all bets are off. Then we can really change the dream we're having. Yeah. So thank you.
Yeah. Quantum activist. Yeah. It is a time to shine light. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your work and for the conversation today, to your spirit.
Totally. Thank you so much for the invite, really.
So, yes, be aware, do the inner work, shine your light. It does make a difference. Be a quantum activist. It is important. Be a part of that critical mass that can help to make a shift in humanity right now. Don't get caught in the mind virus. Every moment, make a choice. There is so much to open up to. Be sure to check out all of Paul's work and his books. And if you need help on doing that inner work, reach out. Schedule a spiritual upgrade breakthrough call with me, and let's see what is blocking your path and what that next step forward is for you. Be sure to check out my website for all my latest classes and my events. Follow me on social media, give me a like, and subscribe to the podcast. We are at a crucial time in humanity, and it is so important to shine our light and be aware of all that is going on around us, especially through this quantum field of light. Thank you so much for listening. I am your host, Terry Ann Hyman. To your spirit, namaste.